You're on. Oh, we can't hear. Oh, we can't hear you, darling. Can you turn your volume up on your
I'm,
keyboard? There we
is
go.
that better?
That's
Okay,
better.
I'm just going to move my microphone. Thank you for letting me know. Yes, so thank you so much for that introduction. I actually I went to change because I realized that you are going into spring soon, and for us, we're going into autumn. So I was wearing I was feeling like I needed to be a little more spring. Um, so welcome everyone, and the topic for me today is going to be the rise of the sacred woman. And this is a very important topic for me, and I will share with you why. But first, I want to ask you a question, and that is how much of your true self have you abandoned in order to survive in a world that has feared for a very long time the sacred feminine? And so I want to share a photo with you. Make sure you can see that. That is me as a little girl. And I keep this picture with me as I have done a lot of work on my with my inner child and to always remind myself of my sacredness and of my innocence. And so I was born with a very strong voice and a very fiery spirit. And even though I was a child, I had this natural power that I could feel things on a really deep level. I was super sensitive to feeling the energies around me. And my voice, even at this young age, was very powerful. My sensitivity, it allowed me this incredible connection to the earth, this magical connection almost. And I was very wild as a child. Um, I just to give you a little bit of an idea, I would put on war paint on my face and I'd run through the forest during the day. And then at night, I would sneak out running barefoot through the forest by the moonlight. I just loved being out in the forest alone, connected to the earth. But my father and I love dearly. We butted heads constantly because I was the oldest child. I was the daughter at that. And out of the whole bunch, I was the most wild and the most independent. And so I was more the trial and error. Do I have any oldest daughters in the room? Because I think a lot of us we have a very similar experience of being that trial and error. And as daughters, that puts a lot on us. So very early on, it became clear to me that I was too much, that I was too loud, that I was too intense, that I was too sensitive. And eventually, although it didn't happen until probably about the age of 13 years old, I finally learned to quiet myself. I learned to disconnect from my body, from my power. I learned to silence my voice in order to feel like I belonged with my family. And this was a very slippery slope because that silence then carried all the way into my womanhood, becoming a woman. And I became the overgiver, always doing more, saying yes when my body really wanted to say no, searching for my worth. And at the same time, I absorbed my cultural like stories of you have to succeed, you have to work hard, you have to hustle, you have to push through everything and ignore what your body's telling you and just go. And I tried to live in that masculine model of productivity for a very long time. I started working when I was 13 years old, farming for 14 hours a day out in the field because I wanted to. I wanted the financial, like I wanted the money. But started working hard at a very young age and ignoring my body's need for rest. So deep down, what ended up happening was I burned out. My soul ended up feeling really restless because I was achieving on the outside, and Joe spoke about this a little bit ago. But inside, I knew that I was not really living in alignment. Can anyone relate to this? So feel free to use the chat. Let me know if any of this resonates with you because I think that I'm not alone in this. So the turning point for me wasn't one single moment. It was many different moments in my life. I remember working for a design company, and at the same time, I was about 29 years old. At the same time, I was in a relationship where we loved each other, but we knew that we weren't really in alignment together and we needed to let go. And within 24 hours, I quit my job and I broke up with my boyfriend. I ended my relationship. I was done. And I began to plan to go backpacking by myself to New Zealand on a search to rediscover my truth. And I stayed in New Zealand for 2 years. Beautiful country, love it. But my journey of healing and coming back, really coming back to myself, wasn't complete. It needed more. It needed more. And so I continued. I traveled the world. I learned a lot of things, trying to reintegrate those lost pieces of myself. And so this little girl was coming with me on everything that I did. I dove into shadow work. I worked on ancestral and lineage healing and shamanic womancraft and somatic yoga, and the list goes on in order for me to remember my truth and to reconnect to those parts of myself that I locked away when I was younger. But through it all, I realized that my body was actually the map that I was needing to reconnect with. The earth was my teacher, but my body was the map. And what I learned was I didn't need to hustle like a man. I needed to remember that as a woman, I was inherently sacred. As humans, we're sacred. And as women, we have this sensitivity, we have this cyclical nature to our bodies. We have this feminine magic, and it's powerful. And it's exactly what the earth and what humanity is needing right now. And so from that moment on, everything began to change. I began reclaiming my role as the star in my own movie. I began to learn to listen to my body again. I began to honor the flowing rhythm of my own cycles instead of overriding them. I began to live in harmony with the earth and with my cycles. And I stepped out of that hustle that we get so used to being in. And I stepped into more of this feminine style of rhythm and flow. And as I did that, I began to shift. I began to guide other women into this same connection with their femininity so that they could lead their own life and they could rise into their sovereignty and they could begin to honor their sensitivity as their power, to live a life really connected to the sacredness of the feminine way, and begin to lead in the way that is more embodied as a woman, as the feminine. And that's how the feminine codes were really born. The rise of the sacred woman really begins within. And so this is remembering that when we reclaim our voice, when we remember that our body is held, like it's holding this wisdom, when we realize that our sensitivity is actually a superpower instead of our weakness, that we're not too much in actuality. And when we embody the truth that everything that we are is inherently sacred, then everything in our life begins to shift. Your relationships shift, your work shifts, your leadership shift. Your abundance begins to come in because you're now radiating this magnetic energy out into the world from your femininity. And this leads to success. But if I'm really honest, rising into the sacred woman doesn't happen in just one moment. Remember that I said that it was all of these multiple moments that brought me back to myself, that reminded me of who I was, what my sacredness was. It happens through practice. It happens through devotion, through honoring our own rhythms. And so I'd like to share with you something. It's why I created the app that I created, the Feminine Codes app, because what I felt I needed was like a living temple that I could come back to every day. And so I created one that women could have at their fingertips because let's face it, a lot of us are busy. We lead busy lives. We have our families, we have our work. And so coming back to that place of being embodied, whether we have 10 minutes or we have an hour, is something that's really, really important to us. And so this app I filled with rituals, with meditations, with feminine embodiment practices, seasonal wisdom to support whoever is within it to be able to rise every day. Because the world, as I see it, doesn't just need more of you working harder. It needs more of you really stepping into your feminine embodiment and leading from that place. And so realizing your sacredness, honoring your sensitive nature, reclaiming your sovereignty is what's needed. So who is the sacred woman and why is it imperative for us to reclaim this aspect of our womanhood now? Because we are inherently sacred. Although for one reason or another, we have silenced that, we've forgotten, we've hid ourselves away, as I've shared in my own story. And reclaiming the sacred woman is us really remembering a most sacred and ancient part of ourselves, our own divine light, activating dormant strands of our DNA, really going back to the archetype of the real feminine, uncovering the truth of it, forgetting, losing the false, like the lies that we've been told of what femininity is. And like this, you get to really participate, to re-experience what you've been disconnected from through your senses, through your sensory experience, to remember what makes us women, our true feminine essence, our feminine codes, our radiance, our magnetism. It's a reclamation of this activation of the feminine codes. And so why is it important now? As a collective, humanity, we're being asked to reintegrate the feminine into all aspects of life itself. We have forgotten the sacredness of the earth. We've forgotten the sacredness of our cyclical nature as women. We have forgotten the many faces of the goddess. And in doing so, we as a collective have suffered. And so it is my belief that as energetic leaders, as women, we are now being asked to rise once again, to lead with our heart, to lead with compassion, with love, through embodiment, through our authentic truth. Because we as women are sacred vessels of life, of creation, and we are made perfect and whole and sacred. And it is this remembrance that's going to shift the collective. So going back to this little girl, I didn't have much of a filter when I was young at all. Now, as a woman connected to my heart, honoring my sensitivity, leading from this compassion that we have inherently as women, honoring my body, my voice, my truth, standing in my sovereignty, knowing exactly who I am, my whole world is shifted. I wake up every morning happy from within, at peace, connected to my purpose, on fire with passion for living. And I can't say that I felt that way when I was younger. And if you have also found that you had at some point abandoned your true self in order to survive in this world, then ask yourself, what is the value of reconnecting with your true self, reconnecting with your roots as a woman? Because ladies, what if this ache, this feeling inside of you that you're too much or that you're missing something in life or there's something that's just like you're disconnected. What if that is not actually a flaw, but a call of your sacred self waiting to be remembered? What if your sensitivity is not actually a weakness, but a superpower? What if the world is really needing your sensitivity, your purpose, your words, your gift? What if the voice that you silenced years ago is the voice that will liberate not only you, but the generations that come after you? This is the moment that we've all been waiting for. Not tomorrow, not someday I'll get there, I'll do that. Now. And it is my belief that these feminine codes are not something that you look for outside of you. They are something that you were born with. They are within you, asking, waiting to be activated, to be remembered, to be lived. And so I will invite you to walk with me, to remember with me, to reclaim your body as a temple, your sensitivity as your power, your voice as the medicine for not only you, but for the world. And to rise as this sacred woman that you were always meant to be, that you were born to be. And the reason that I ask this is because when you rise, we all rise together. The collective rises. Women rise. We're here doing this together. So I'd like to open this up for just a couple minutes that we have left to see if anyone has any questions, to see if you have anything you'd like to share. I'm here. I will read the... Yes. Many of us are here to clear our family lineage, to heal that right now. I really feel that many of us have chosen to, and if we're showing up for something like this, then there's somewhere within us that's hearing the call. Thank you. Ladies, I will be here for a little bit longer. If you have any questions, if you need me, you can find me. My website's thefemininecodes.com, on everything, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everything's The Feminine Codes. And I'm here to answer any questions. So much love to all of you. And I would like to welcome the next speaker.